Okay, I'd like to call the November Curriculum Committee meeting to order. I need a motion for an approval of the minutes from the October meeting. Have a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, moving right along, I'll turn it over to Dr. Jones, who will introduce the principals with their improvement plans.
Good morning, committee members and all that are here. Happy holidays to each of you. On our agenda this morning, we have an item entitled School Improvement Plans for Improvement from four of our elementary, middle, and high schools. Of course, we have completed in Union County the process for approving all school improvement plans. The state of North Carolina does indicate that if a school is designated with a rating of low performing, that there is a different tool that the schools use for school improvement. That program is called NC STAR, and the principals as well as the staff participate in this online tool, which you have a copy in your packet. It really revolves around 9 key areas. It has strategies, and it allows the schools to actually go in and document their work, whether it be their school improvement teams or it would be their actual school improvement teams, or their faculties can actually show the progress they're making in addressing each of those 9 areas. So that is provided by the state, and then we are required to present this to the Board of Education, and we do that in Union County each year through the Curriculum Committee. So we've asked the principals from 4 schools to join us this morning. We did send you copies of the PowerPoint that they will be using, as well as copies of the NC STAR plan. After each school will present, and after each school you can ask questions. So we'll begin with Monroe High School. We'll let the principals introduce themselves. Monroe High School, then we'll have Monroe Middle School, East Union Middle School, and then Walter Bickett Elementary. So at this time, and are there any questions? This time, Dr. Harvey.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today and allow you to share with some of the exciting things that are happening at Monroe High School. Each of you should have a copy of the presentation that I'm about to go through with you. I want to start by sharing with you that a group of Red Hawks that flies together is known as a CAST. And at Monroe High School, a CAST stands for a Culture of Achievement for Students and Teachers. We are working hard on our collaboration efforts, our data reflection, and to move ourselves out of the low-performing schools designation. I want to start by sharing with you some of the demographics of our student population and our staff population. We have 81 certified teachers with a total staff of 115. We have 1,211 students, 51% of which are Hispanic, 32% are Black, 12% white, and 3% multiracial. Our free and reduced lunch population is 70%. Last year, we ended our school year at 90%, and I see that steadily increasing as the year goes on as more students apply for free and reduced price lunch. Our ESL population, students who directly receive LEP services, are 245, and our EC population number is 199. On the next slide, you'll see some of our data that was reflective on the North Carolina School Report Card for 2016-2017. Our 4-year graduation rate, as reported, is 87.2%. ACT proficiency was 45.5%, up 10% from the previous year. Our Math 3 completion rate was 95%. ACT work keys showed a slight decrease down to 46.6%, down about 2%. And our overall EOC performance, 34.3%, down about 5% from the previous year. And the majority of that coming from our math and our biology composite scores. Our overall school grade was 53%, down from 56% in 2015-2016, receiving a D rating from the state of North Carolina and did not meet expected growth. However, I'd like to make it known that we did make expected growth in math and English. However, we did not meet it in biology. And overall, we didn't meet it to a degree which pulled our entire school down into low performing status, did not meet growth. However, you look at North Carolina final exams and all final exam scores that are counted in growth in EVAS, we did meet expected growth with a positive composite score of 0.93. If you look at the next slide, our school's improvement team, our site-based team, identified out of the 9 key indicators, these 4 indicators have the highest emphasis for our staff this year. Okay, so we identified instructional teams developing standards aligned units of instruction for each subject and grade level. All teachers attentive to emotional states, guide students in managing their emotions, and arrange for supports and interventions when necessary. The LEA/school regularly looks at school performance data and aggregated classroom observation data, decisions about school improvement and professional development needs. And the school develops and implements consistent, intentional, and ongoing plans to support student transitions from grade to grade and level to level. I want to go more specific into our strategies that address those indicators. On the next slide, I'm going to talk a little bit about school-wide literacy intervention. Every morning from 8 to 8:35, our students participate in what's called Red Hawk Connections. We are emphasizing vocabulary development on Mondays and Wednesdays. On Tuesdays, we talk about some of our cross-disciplinary literacy strategies. On Thursday, we integrate SAT preparation, ACT preparation, work keys preparation, whatever, vocabulary might be involved in those tests. So we work on those things. And on Friday, we have something unique called Community Connections. We've had guest speakers from across our community come in. Last week was Allvac ATI representative talking about the connections from Monroe High School students in the community there looking at securing jobs. We've had Pete Havencheck from the city of Monroe be a presenter, the Assistant District Attorney Gerald Huff, who's a Monroe High School graduate, present as well. It's been really remarkable. That school-wide literacy intervention is focused on building the literacy skills from all of our students, not just our lowest students, but for all of our students. We have departmentalized tutoring every day, every morning and afternoon, except for Wednesday afternoons when we have staff meetings and Friday afternoons when staff want to go home. We do have it Friday morning. We have Saturday school every Saturday at Monroe High School. Last Saturday, before we went out for Thanksgiving break, we had almost 200 students at our school receiving remedial services. We're focusing on our ESL population through the help of Miss Gibson and some of the funding she was able to secure for our school. We've identified students that are ESL and working with them closely to develop their language skills. As you know, there's no exemption anymore for any of the exams, EOC or EOG. Those students will be tested this year, regardless of what day they came to us. We have resequenced science. As you know, the federal reporting mandate for biology in high school, or any science in high school, is at the end of their 11th grade year. We've identified that our students at Monroe High School are typically a year or two below on their reading levels. So we thought, well, why do we teach biology at the same rate that every other school teaches biology during their 10th grade year? And we moved that to their 11th grade year, and they're taking physical science their 10th grade year to help prepare them for that biology EOC exam. We're improving core instruction through the Kansas Center University on Research and Learning. They have extensive coaching strategies that our MTSS coordinator, Karen Mitchell, has participated in. When I talk about those strategies, you look at the two acronyms there. One is the Content Literacy Continuum. Let me explain that for just a second. The Content Literacy Continuum looks at the course and unit organizers for each course that's taught. It identifies the essential curriculum that needs to be taught. It identifies key vocabulary. So in every classroom, in every course at Monroe High School, when you walk into a room, you'll see that course organizer for all of our courses. It then further breaks it down to the unit organizers. And so there's no need for a exam review packet because everything that's essential is given to the students up front. It's a strategy we introduced last year and saw great rewards in a lot of our courses, and are working towards progressing that and showing even more improvements. We look at the strategic instructional module, the SIM model, that talks about the specific strategies that teachers are using. And I'll give you one example, the question exploration routine. So our teachers are taught how to dissect questions that our students are being asked and what is essential in that question. What is the question actually asking? When you have students that are typically a year or two below grade level, sometimes it's the reading that gets them hung up. It's not that they don't know the content, it's that they don't understand the question. So really looking at the question exploration routine is one of our essential strategic instructional model at Monroe High School, and we've taught our teachers in some of our professional development that, and as we add new staff, we're training them in that as well. One of the most exciting things that I'm really excited about is the Safe and Civil Schools training that Dr. Houlihan and his team have implemented through all the high priority schools this year. That's the foundations training and really training our staff at how we manage our student behaviors at Monroe High School and at all the other schools. We have taken a hard look at not student behavior, but adult behavior and how we address inappropriate behavior. There's an acronym that they use called STOIC, and it talks about teaching the expected behaviors, observing the expected behaviors, how we interact with students, and how we correct them. And a lot of times, a lot of problems at the school can be navigated differently with just a different response from teachers. That's the most appropriate way I think I can say that. But through that, we've also, Dr. Jones has found some for our staff on mental health training as well. As you know, mental health is a rising concern for a lot of high priority schools, and maybe not necessarily just high priority schools, but we have identified, I believe it's 8 staff members, and 3 additional staff members this year were trained on identifying students who are in crisis, emotional crisis, and what are our intervention steps and practices for those students. We have a mental health therapist in our school through CEH who works, we just had their hours added. So they were working 1 day a week with us, and now we've added the second day, and they're working very closely with our counselors to provide additional therapy for our students. We have targeted interventions for our subgroups. I've already mentioned the Saturday school for our ESL. One of the other targeted interventions for our EC population, we're using different materials called pacemaker materials. Pacemaker materials are content materials. So they're the content that our students need. However, they're written on a grade level or more below for our students to be able to have access to the curriculum appropriately. One of the other things we're doing for our 9th grade students this year is we're doing a program out of the Kansas Center for Research and Learning called Extreme Reading. For our lowest 9th grade readers, we have roughly 45 students in extreme reading this year. It's a year-long English 1 course. So they'll take extreme reading first semester and English 1 second semester to help build their literacy skills. The way the high school model is set up on semester-based teaching, some 8th graders coming out of middle school would not necessarily have had English until spring semester, and that wasn't okay with us at Monroe High School. We needed them in English year-round. We found a program that's appropriate to identify our lowest performing students, and they're getting some really great interventions. Our teachers have been to 2 trainings on extreme reading through the help of Dr. Jones, Dr. Houlihan, and Dr. Faust, and Mr. Breedlove to find the funding for our teachers to participate in that. So those teachers have been in 6 days worth of training on extreme reading as well. Want to talk a little bit more about the improve overall school attendance. Attendance is it is our biggest battle at Monroe High School. We have shown improvement. I'm thankful to report from the first 6 weeks to the second 6 weeks with some of the interventions. Our 9th graders are now leading us in our attendance battle. They are up to 92% attendance. So we're looking at a grade level competition, and we reward each grade level based on who has the highest attendance rate for each 6 weeks. We also make it a daily announcement. We want our students to own their attendance data. We want them to own their discipline data. We want them to own their common assessment data and their EOC data. We weren't getting as much bang for our buck, so I provided an additional incentive for homeroom attendance. So any homeroom with perfect attendance now gets an additional incentive as well. Typically, there's 13 or 14 students in every homeroom or Red Hawk Connections class, and at the end of each week, a Bojangles biscuit goes very far with our students to encourage them to come to school. And it's definitely worth the 99 cents to have them in our building. I want to kind of close our strategy portion of our with the EPIC grant. I'm very, very excited about the EPIC grant and what it's going to do, not only for teacher retention, but for teacher recruitment. The work that Dr. Healy's done excites me tremendously. The $27 million grant that was secured under Dr. Houlihan's leadership is going to provide us with opportunities to retain high quality teachers, to recruit high quality teachers, not only from within our district, but across the state and across the nation. So those incentives are exciting for our teachers, and looking forward to the work that's to do with Dr. Healy and the positive impact that it's going to have on the culture of our building and on the performance for our students. The monitoring and milestones you'll see on the next slide. Every 6 weeks, we are looking at our common assessment data. This week, we are taking our common assessment data and matching them to our projected EVA scores and seeing if our students are on track to meet their predicted scores or not meet their predicted scores. And then what are we doing about it if they're not? And what interventions are we putting in place? And are we spiraling that curriculum enough to make sure if they miss something first or second 6 weeks that they have an opportunity to catch up through our Saturday school interventions or our Red Hawk Connections classes? I've started class meetings this year, which have been extremely positive with our students and our staff. Every 9 weeks, I meet with each grade level and I share their data with them with regards to discipline, attendance, common assessments, perfect attendance, honor roll, course failures. And that's the emphasis on students owning their data and self-efficacy. Yesterday, I met with my department chairs so that it's not an isolated improvement initiative. All of our teachers need to know where we stand with regards to student performance. So from the art teacher to the masonry teacher to the PE teacher, we are all aware that this is a school-wide effort to help, get us out of low performing status, but more importantly, to help our students improve. We meet regularly with our PLC teams. Every week we sit down with our PLC teams. And then first semester reflection, as you know, high schools are a little unique. We'll have an opportunity to reflect on what our first semester scores are here after the first semester exams are and how we look towards improvement. So we'll have a good data point there to see that we are on target. And then through Dr. Barnes's department, we work through the staff evaluation process, matching our NESIS observation rating scores to EVA scores and identifying teachers who did not meet or exceed growth. I've had some great individual meetings with those teachers and plans for improvement for those teachers, and I'm excited about the improvement that they'll show. I just want to say in conclusion to all of you that Monroe High School, although it's identified as a low-performing school by the state of North Carolina, has a lot of great things happening at our school. If you look at all the tested subjects, we did meet expected growth. Math 1, English 2 met expected growth. However, biology is a struggle for us, and we're putting our thumb on that. We have a difficult population, but there's no place that I'd rather be. I'm excited about working with our neediest children. I have for 19 years now, going on 20, and I'm just confident. I'm very confident that we will not be in this position again next year, and I'm confident that we will be a meet expected growth, and we will not be identified as a D or F school, and that we'll all be proud of the work that our teachers and students have done to accomplish that. And I thank you for your support and invite you to come by our school and to witness the great things that are happening at Monroe High School. Thank you.
At this time, we would entertain any questions for Dr. Harvey.
Dr. Harvey, I have a couple questions about your Saturday school, but first I want to thank you for all your efforts. We are blessed to have someone of your caliber and your staff at Monroe High, and I want please pass along to all your staff. We appreciate your efforts.
Thank you.
Could you go? I couldn't write fast enough. What's your average attendance on your Saturday school?
This Saturday before Thanksgiving, we had nearly 200 students in our building.
And the primary focus is for your ESL students?
There's a big focus on our ESL students. With 245 students identified as ESL, there's still 51% of our students who are Hispanic. So even though you might not be identified as ESL, you still have English as your second language. Mm-hmm. So there's a big emphasis on helping those students, but not just those students. We also invite anybody that may have gotten behind. Maybe they were sick, maybe they were absent, maybe they just didn't understand something. Right. We alternate weeks. So on one Saturday is math and science, and the following Saturdays is social studies, English. There's a good integration effort there between those two departments, and that's why we paired them like that.
Are students identified and invited to attend, or is it open to everyone, or how do you handle that?
That's a great question. It's open to everyone. Teachers will write a student parents a letter. They're asked to make parent contact. We also have a roster that's built by Thursday. We do a Connect Ed message through Blackboard Connect for all the students that were identified to attend, because sometimes students won't tell their parents and we can't get a hold of them that they need to come to Saturday school.
No, surely that doesn't happen. What would you guesstimate as your percentage of participation of those that are invited to attend versus do attend? Do you have any off the top of your head? Do you have any kind of guess?
It's not as high as I would like it to be.
Okay.
I will say that. I would like it to be more than 200 students on a Saturday.
Okay.
I would like it to be closer to 500 students on a Saturday.
Do you, how do you do staff on a rotating basis? Who gets the honor of coming in on a Saturday to be part of that?
So I've used some of my instructional allotment to pay them the stipend to come in. So I pay them
Great.
their hourly rate.
Great.
It cost me about $8,000 to do that out of my instructional allotment. I ask teachers who are interested first, but I go after the teachers that I want.
Got you.
Yes, sir.
Are there any limitations to you that we can help you as a board that are any kind of impediments to having higher participation? In other words, do you serve a meal on Saturdays at this?
We would invite you to help us to provide a meal. I think we'd get higher attendance, but we do not.
Okay.
We do not provide transportation either. That might be a
Okay.
barrier for some of our students.
So you've identified two possible areas that we might be able to assist with targeted funding that might help increase the participation in this program, which you feel would have a significant impact on your scores and these students' performance?
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Harvey, and really on behalf of the entire team, thank you to all of you for being here and for your outstanding leadership and your commitment. When you look at your strategies, and so I don't ask all of you, you can comment on this as you go through your presentation. When you look at your strategies, you alluded to some of these are new this year. Some of them you're continuing because you saw them as effective. What an entire, if you can pull up that last slide on the strategy slide, what percentage of those would you say are, based on your data, are brand new for this year compared to those that are, you've seen a major effort from the last year that you want to continue?
New this year is resequencing the science curriculum. I've wanted to do that. I've had to negotiate through with my science department and build some, investment in that, and they are on board with that now. They, and so that's worked, and I've got them on board doing that, and they're, and we've lost some biology teachers as well. The Safe and Civil Schools initiative is new this year. And that's through, again, the training that the district is providing. That's been very positive. Some of the targeted interventions for low performing subgroups are new, but not all of them. For example, we didn't have a dual language math 1 classroom last year. Didn't have the teacher to do it. Now I have a bilingual math 1 teacher that I can have him teach in English and Spanish to 25 students who predominantly speak Spanish. But we don't want to teach them all in Spanish because the exam, again, of course, is not all in Spanish. It's in English. So we need to prepare them for that. So that's something new. So we've added layers to some of the things that we've done. The school-wide literacy intervention has been ongoing. It's been 2 years, but we've added a lot of layers to that. One of those layers is that Red Hawk Connections class. We had a remedial process in place where students would go back to first period on Monday for power hour to get help with their first period teacher, and second period on Tuesday, and third period on Wednesday. And that turned into a compliance intervention. You didn't turn your work in, so you come to first period to do that. And what if I had PE first period? No offense to PE teacher, I was one. I really don't need remediation in PE. I need remediation in math, English, and science. I need remediation in my literacy skills. So first thing every day from 8 to 8:35, we're doing literacy. Everybody's doing literacy. My PE teacher is teaching literacy. And they signed up for what type of group they wanted. And when I say what type of group, did they want a low performing, approaching grade level, an on grade level, or an above grade level Red Hawk Connections class? And remarkably, majority of our staff told that they wanted that low performing group. That's talk to the dedication of our staff. I hope I answered your question, sir.
I have a question for our staff. How many schools do the Safe and Civil Schools? Do we know?
It's every school in the Forest Hills and Monroe clusters.
Okay. Okay. I appreciate that you have highlighted so many positives that your school is doing. I think it's very important because all of y'all are sitting here. I think so many people are focusing on the negative, but there's a lot of good things going on at each and every one of our schools. So I really appreciate the fact that you highlighted so many positive things that Monroe High School is doing. But can you also talk about your teacher retention and teacher morale at Monroe right now?
So our teacher retention was really good this year. I think we lost about 9% of our staff from last year, and the ones that we lost were good. Sometimes there's addition through subtraction. Okay, and so we've made really great gains in our staff. I think I've had one of my best hiring years ever. 12 years, and I've had a really good hiring year to replace the staff that we lost from last year. I feel really confident about the staff that were hired. Even, first year teachers that I've hired are doing a remarkable job. That's due to a lot of the support and structure that we've put in place for them, and just the ability to find them early enough. We had I think it was March, Dr. Houlihan, we had a job fair, and I hired 2 really good teachers at that job fair. We don't typically do job fairs that early in the school year. And that job fair, I was able to secure 2 from CMS that were really, really good. And then the second question you asked me, help me again. The morale. Okay. So morale is tough. I'm a firm believer that you choose your own morale. All right. I try to provide the environment where you can be successful. I'm going to give you the resources to support you. But I believe when I wake up in the morning, I get to choose whether I'm happy or not. Okay. Now, some people will say differently, and I get that. But the one thing that's lacking, and the one thing I've worked with Mr. Breedlove on, is, how do we recognize our teachers? You said we do a lot of positive things, and we do. There's a lack of PTSO or parent support at Monroe High School. I'm guessing they're going to say the same thing to the left of me as well. My children go to Sun Valley. My wife used to work in the Marvin cluster. I know the parent support. I know what happens around this time of the year when parents are supportive of what the teachers do for students. Our teachers don't get that. Our teachers get the pat on the back. Our teachers say that we appreciate them, that Dr. Houlihan appreciates them, that Mr. Breedlove appreciates them. They get that, but there's a lot of challenges in working in our schools. And we need some more positive things to come from our community to say, I'll give you an example, Hartford Monroe, they're doing a phenomenal job, but they can't do it all. And they can't do it as frequently as we need it. We need more of that. Lee Park Church is a great partner for us too. Okay, so Lee Park, we let them use our gym. Lee Park is going to do lunch for us on Thursday the 14th. Because I can't afford to do lunch for our entire staff for Christmas or holidays. So Lee Park is going to step in. We need more faith-based partners and more community support to just show our teachers that they are appreciated. Thank you.
I have, oh, I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Dr. Harvey, as always, thank you for your 19 plus years of leadership and your commitment to our students. A couple of my questions have already been asked, but do our students meet one-on-one with our counselors?
The answer, yes. They also meet with our career development coordinator in their 9th grade year, and through Naviance, they'll be meeting with them more frequently now using that tool. Our counselors are required to meet with all of their students. In 9th grade, it's less frequently than it is for our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. We also have through Davidson University, the college advisor, the counselor that's working with our school to identify students who are college bound. And not all of our students are college bound. A lot of them choose military, a lot of them choose career, and that's good. We recognize that. And so our counselors work very close with them. Our career development coordinator works very close with them. We would like them to be touched more, but there's a lot of other things that, scheduling is one thing. We're working with them to improve the number of touches.
Dr. Harvey, Ms. Sturdivant is touching on a very high-level challenge that I think we have in our school system that's not unique to UCPS, and that is that I firmly believe our high schools do not have as many counseling positions as they really need. The counselor to student ratio is way too high. And the model that he talked about with the college advisor model from Davidson is something that I wish we could replicate across all high schools. and even add more to each high school so that you've got someone that beginning your 9th grade year can start to work with you on the college and career going process, as opposed to having to wait to have those conversations when you're a junior or a senior. By then it's way too late. But this is something that I hope the board recognizes as a gap at that in terms of our budget for next year, because it is a significant need.
It's excellent.
Thank you.
I
Thank
have
you.
one more question, Dr. Harvey.
Yes, ma'am.
Is Monroe High School reaching out to its cluster schools and working with them to show this is where we're lacking in 9th, 10th grade? This is where we see the struggle, going back to middle school and even going back to elementary school?
Yes, ma'am. We had a cluster meeting 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. We're going to do that more frequently. Mr. Ferguson and I have had at least 3 meetings in face-to-face, but regularly phone calls every day almost. He's got some great ideas. One of the things that I didn't highlight in here is some of the ideas about our transition that I met with Mr. Ferguson about, and I just met with my student government officers and my department chairs about. We don't do a very good job of transitioning our 8th graders to 9th grade. We need to do better. And I learned that as a parent, and I learned that after being at the high school for several years. And we've come up with an idea that we think is very strong. And we're going to have our 8th graders shadow a junior at our school for probably 2 periods next year, this spring. And they're going to, so then when they walk into the building at 9th grade, they'll have a senior mentor. And that senior mentor will have most likely 2 to 3 freshmen that they will work with. And part of that could end up being a part of our Red Hawk Connections class as well. And I heard from our students, I heard this from our students, if I could go back and re-choose the courses I took at 9th grade, I wouldn't have taken that class. I didn't know enough about it, or I would have taken something different. Part of that's maturity and experience, but part of that is us not doing a good job of orienting our 8th graders properly, and we're going to do better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also have an additional question, and this I'll be asking of all of our principals. It's kind of a catch-all. I ask you questions about the Saturday school, but there may be anything. This is your opportunity. Is there anything that this board can do, or stop doing for that matter, anything we can do to facilitate your job and the staff at Monroe High to be able to do their job better for the students? Is there any areas of need that we specifically can help address?
First and foremost, support. Our teachers need to know they're doing a good job. Our teachers need to know that they are they're good at what they do. I would stack my teachers up against any school in the county. Our student demographics, our student population is challenging, and they're doing a good job. I need for the board to advocate on our behalf about the current accountability system and how it doesn't factor in all of the scores. We don't just teach English, math, and science, but those are the only 3 scores that count on the school report card. Why don't masonry scores count? Because my masonry scores are awesome. They're the best in the county. They're probably the best in the state. Why don't electrical trades count? They're awesome too. Those growth ratios in my school are in the blue. They're 5.6 and 7.2 or something like that. They're phenomenal. If we add those things into our accountability system, our school's not sitting here today. Why is it that only math, biology, and English 2 count on our school report card? I need you to advocate for me on that behalf, because there's more to schooling than those 3 areas. Thank you.
I'm very impressed with your presentation, but not surprised. If this was a baseball team, you would be our cleanup hitter to clear the bases. I have a couple of questions. One, Saturday school. Do you use it for makeup days? Can they use it to make up a day?
Yes, sir.
I know when I taught, I saw recovery days given out at the end of the year too easy. And it seems like to me, if a person has a attendance problem and they make it up through the Saturdays, then I'm okay with that, but not the last 2 weeks of school. And I assume you're pretty tough on attendance with these children.
We are. We utilize the Blackboard Connect system. We've done other things such as first semester, our first T1. We now identify students that are at risk of failing due to attendance on their first report card. We don't wait till the end of the semester to say that there's failure due to attendance. So we have a great team of individuals that work at Monroe High School because attendance is a challenge. But yes, we document every minute a student is at our building above and beyond what's required, and we apply that towards their recovery efforts.
And to piggyback on what Mr. Sides was touching on, I think it all boils down to money, and I think this board would probably support you in any way as trying to find extra funds to make what you need happen. A term I've started using lately, on some things I get to the red zone, but I can't score.
Mm-hmm.
So if you feel like there's some things that could help you get into the end zone and win and bring these things up, I think bring it to us sooner instead of later, because, we're meeting now. We got most of the year ahead of us. We don't have it all. But I think this board would be, after seeing your presentation, the only thing I heard wrong, I've been calling Mr. Breedlove Dr. Breedlove all year, and I thought he was a doctor by now.
He is, and I apologize, Dr. Breedlove, if I said Mr.
Because everybody told me, I even had Dr. Houlihan talked into he called him Dr. Breedlove in May.
November the 10th, he became a doctor, received it from High Point.
That's correct.
So,
Sorry, Doc.
great presentation.
Mr. Rate, Mr. Sides, Ms. Helms, and Ms. Sturtevant, you have all been very, very great supporters of Monroe through my entire career at Benton Heights, Monroe Middle, and Monroe High School, and I appreciate that greatly.
Did the teachers, I know it was not much of a bump, but the extra supplement, did that make them real happy?
Anytime. Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
Thank
my
you.
wife says money can't buy happiness, but it can rent it.
Yeah, for a little while, right? Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Ferguson, principal of Health Sciences Academy at Monroe Middle.
Well, good morning. My name is Denny Ferguson, and in the last several years, you have seen me around this table discussing a similar type plan revolving around the designated low-performing status of a school, but it was not the Health Sciences Academy at Monroe Middle School. It was East Elementary School. And proud to be sitting here celebrating the fact that East Elementary is not at this table. Yeah. Isn't that it? Thank you. So what I can thank you for right away is the fact that, one, you gave us time to help move the transformation process along and support growth at that school. And that's how I want to start this presentation. Is I love the fact that I'm at the Health Sciences Academy at Monroe Middle School, because I get to see those same students continue in their journey to the high school to be successful. And I long to hear about the day when Dr. Harvey can say we're having fewer and fewer and fewer students coming, or scholars coming to the high school several years behind. And I made my decision to take on this position sitting in the parking lot at Dr. Harvey's school this summer, watching the caps of graduates come off their head. That's what it's all about for every one of our scholars, and seeing them go on to college and knowing whatever lies ahead of them is possible. My personal vision for our school is that our school, yes, I'm competitive, our school becomes competitive with every school in our county, and that we shake off the perception that is out there in our school, because currently the perception of our school assassinates our progress, and it's unacceptable. And it's a big challenge, and we need time, we need passion, we need strategies, we need support, we need money, we need a lot of things. And I sit here knowing that we're going to get it, and we are getting it because you did it for us at East. So thank you, and let me dive in so you're not here all day. Let me be clear Our overall goal is to get out of low performing status, but it is a state designated status, and I think it's horrible. If you tell somebody they're bad long enough, they'll reflect what you tell them. And the state is damaging our schools because they're telling our kids you are low performing. I tell our kids, you're just not where we want you to be yet, because that's how we all are. We all want to be somewhere else, better tomorrow than we are today, so we're not there yet. So it's a mindset thing. Let me tell you 2 things you need to be aware as you read this plan. You are not going to see a ton of emphasis in our plan about us transforming to the Health Sciences Academy, because it is an engagement effort. It is not a school transformation effort. It is there to help close the opportunity gap for our scholars so that they see and have access to wonderful opportunities right here in our community, right down the street, that they're not aware of. And it is working. We have 6th graders excited to be in our building. I was reading reviews, and I put on my morning announcements today telling my 7th grade, 8th graders, I'm sorry that you are not as heavily involved in this phase. Don't be mad at us. Don't hate on us, because they're giving us bad reviews online. They want what the 6th graders, the golden children, they call them, they want what they have. And we have to enforce to them that, Rome wasn't built in a day. And but our kids, they're that excited. And I love to hear a little bit of jealousy, because that means we're doing good stuff. So it is an engagement strategy, and our parents are excited about it. This plan focuses on our transformation efforts. I do want to remind you my philosophy about transformation. I do not like the word reform. A butterfly is not a reformed caterpillar. It is transformed. Transformation takes time. So that's what we're focusing on. I gave you a large report if it was shared with you about data, so I'm not going to hit that hard. The essence of the Monroe Middle School issue is students perform at a certain proficiency level in every subject area in 6th grade, and they go down a little bit in percentage in 7th and down a little bit in 8th. That's a problem. We need more proficiency in 7th than we had in 6th, more in 8th. We've got to change that tide. With discipline, our OSS days are high. If you were to break that down by student, you would notice that it is a small group of students yielding a high number of OSS days, thus perpetuating a perception that's incorrect. Like lots of schools, you have a small group of students making most of the poor choices, 2%-ish of the kids. So we have amazing scholars in our building. But every day we lose to OSS is instruction lost, and that's a concern for us. Attendance goes down throughout the school year, and that's something that we actually last week started having conversations about disaggregating data and creating student competitions to where we can increase and make that something we can leverage for our students. You're going to see the majority of this plan focuses on the word fidelity. Our staff has communicated to us we have pockets of greatness, and that's not good. We need every teacher providing great best practices, great moves for every kid, every class, all day long. And so you're going to see us talking about some basic things, but if we can do these things, every house needs a strong foundation. We've got to build a strong foundation. You're also going to hear me talk about our staffing. But let's start first with mission, vision, and values. We as an organization have to determine why we exist, and we as a faculty to determine that. We determined in a school, what do we want for the kid closest to our heart? And we wrote this mission for the kids closest to our hearts, and then said, if it's good enough for the kid closest to my heart, it's good enough for every kid in this county. And at the bottom of the mission, vision, value page, this is brand new, right off the press. Our staff says, we pledge to empower scholars to be confident, academically prepared, and resilient to overcome present challenges and conquer future opportunities. They are currently creating a vision that will describe what our school is ultimately going to look like. Then they're going to write their values. How are we all going to agree to behave in order to make that happen? What we do is we take that, we laminate it, we commit to it as a resolution ceremony, and then we hire and fire based on it. Because in every interview, we give our staff these 3 things and say, if you don't agree with this, you can't work here. You're not going to be happy. It's a vetting process. And if staff aren't meeting these expectations, they don't need to be there. They need to find another bus to get on. Speaking of our bus, a bus heads one direction at a time. We all got to be heading in the right direction. And the people are the most important. Our adults are the most important people because they are driving our bus. We are trying desperately to attract staff who are willing to do transformation work. Transformation work does not start at 8:15 and end at 3:45. Transformation work is exhausting. Transformation work will burn you out. Transformation work, you're fueled by passion, not just intelligence. The EPIC grant is helping. Research says that money supports retention, especially when people are having a hard time meeting their living expenses. And I have teachers working 2 jobs. It's really hard for them to do transformation work if they're working 2 jobs. So things like the EPIC grant that I won't tell all the details. Dr. Hardy did a great job with that. The EPIC grant will help us close some of that gap. So it's a great opportunity for us to help attract people willing to do this work. One thing, research shows that purpose helps retain excellent people. Teachers who feel like they have a purpose there. Again, back to mission, vision, and values. What is our purpose? We're doing that. Generating excitement. Middle schoolers are really cool. People think they're crazy. Well, it's hormones. They are temporarily unstable. It's okay. But they're awesome. They have amazing ideas. They think beyond the box constantly. You've got to find reason to be excited about the work you do. So we're looking for people who are excited about the work. And we're also looking for people we can empower and let them have autonomy within the building, because teachers, if you hire the right people, they will rock your world with amazing ideas of how to innovate your building. If you hire the right people, put them in the right positions and let them run. So those are types of people we're looking for. The next one, I'm very quickly, site-based leadership. Again, we're meeting twice monthly, but we're looking at developing a team where school improvement transformation is not done to the school. The school manages and runs, monitors the improvement efforts. So school improvement is not done to them. It's something we all do together. Feedback and growth mindset. We have to have a growth mindset in order to do transformation work. In order to have a growth mindset, you need to constantly have your pulse of how things are going. We've created a team of teachers that help monitor the transition from where we are to where we want to be. We're not scared of getting feedback. They're monitoring me as the new principal, from the old principal to the new principal, because transition's hard. It affects morale. Parent council. Our PTO was dissolved last year, and we started a parent council. I'm proud to report that this week, Tuesday night, we had our first parent council meeting. We had over 8 families represented. They represented all of our demographics of our school, and they sat around the table, and the question was, what does parent involvement look like? And my parents said, I don't know. And I said, you know what? That's a fair answer, because I don't know either, because it should look different at every school. It should look based on the needs of the parents. So let's figure it out together. And our parent council decided in that meeting, we're going to do 3 things. We are going to determine how we can support teachers in this building, because we don't have this thing figured out and they don't have this thing figured out. So how do we work together? Ferguson, your homework is to find out from your teachers how we can support them. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. They said, we want to increase parent involvement, and let's figure out what that looks like. And then they said, I love this. We want to increase school-to-home communication and home-to-school communication, but we also want to improve parent-to-parent communication, because we need each other. Imagine that. We have climate committees monitoring our morale, which is unbelievably challenging when you're doing transformation work, even with the best people. We have an HSA flight program that Mr. Ray has spoken about in the past, and we continue that. That's an opportunity for new staff who are new to education and new staff who are new to Monroe Middle School to join together with other veterans and support each other in the building and outside the building. It's very successful. The next 2 pages, and I'm going to hit this very quickly. The next 2 pages talks about student behavior. At Monroe Middle School, we expect students to be responsible, respectful, prepared, and safe. And we are constantly looking for different opportunities to try to get our students to meet those expectations. We are working very closely with Safe and Civil Schools training, which is new. Our PBIS efforts, which is sporadic. And our staff said, we've got to have everybody on board. We've got to have everybody consistently. It takes one teacher on a teaching team to not follow the expectations, to undermine all the work of the whole team. So this seems basic. It's actually huge, especially when you're in a building where students are resilient. They're going to try to get by with it just for the sake of getting by with something. And your teacher's got to be on it 24/7. Right on.
At every middle school.
You got it.
Like just a Monroe.
You got it. So we need a strong foundation. We also recognize that a lot of our scholars, and I'm okay with them having challenges. They're growing up resilient. We will take the challenges they have and we will leverage them in a way that they are prepared for life, because life's hard. And they're going to be gritty and resilient, much better than students who have not had challenges. So let's twist that positively. But what can we do now to support them? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You funded a social worker who's amazing and a psychotherapist who's amazing, and you're giving us more resources to support our students with attendance and therapy on a daily basis. So we are employing those efforts. We also are creating check-in and check-out processes to where students who are on behavior plans can go throughout the day and check in with a mentor, a counselor, a social worker, and just talk about their day and let them know how things are going. You can read through this. We're making a lot of efforts to support first-time instruction. We're looking at improving our literacy model, our workshop model. We're embedding literacy throughout our content areas. We are working on implementing gradual release of responsibility. Some of these you've heard about in Union County for a while, but again, we've got to get every teacher every day in every class using these best practices. Okay. Okay. Now, this is really important. I guess this is slide 10, academic intervention, because this has a lot to do with you, and I can't wait to see the future benefits of this. One thing I do want to say is our student success time at HSA, every single student gets tier 2 intervention. If you're AIG, you get more enrichment. If you're EC, you get more support. If you are a bubble kid, if you're right on the verge of passing, you get that additional support. So every kid gets first-time excellent instruction and additional tier 2 instruction. Now, thanks to your funding efforts, we are implementing extend the school day tutoring starting in January, where parents are currently sending in their permission slips. And I've got parents calling me going, I heard something about this, and I don't know, the dog ate it or my kid's not giving it, but I hear something about tutoring. Yes, let me get you an additional sign-up sheet. What it is our students who EVOS projects them as almost passing, or they are projected to fall back and not pass, and they did pass last year, have qualified for this extended school day tutoring. They will receive 2 days of face-to-face tutoring from a HSA staff member and 2 days of online virtual tutoring by a certified staff member through Elevate K-12, which is a learning platform we used last year at East. And we had 24 students get 15 sessions of tutoring through this program last year, and they were our students who could pass the science EOG. And we had over an 85% pass rate with 4s and 5s after this tutoring. So we used it as a pilot last year to see if it was worth the money.
Could I interrupt you on that for a
Yes.
second, so I don't lose my train of thought?
Sure.
The online,
Mm-hmm.
do you have challenges where any of the families do not have access to the internet, or are they still there at school?
They are
utilizing-
still at school,
Okay.
and they get bused home. They have no
Okay.
excuses.
So you provide transportation
Yes,
for any of
sir.
the after school.
Yes, sir.
Great.
Every
Thank
kid gets bused home. Every kid gets a snack.
Great.
No barriers.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Now we also are providing this extended day tutoring for our kids who are most at risk, our lowest 6% of students who are not ESL and not EC, who could potentially have an exceptionality. They might need to be tested later on. Those students will get 2 days of face-to-face tutoring for their below grade level needs, and then 2 days online of on grade level content, because they're going to take that test on grade level. Okay. So that's extended day tutoring, and you funded that through Dr. Houlihan's efforts. We also have 7th grade math tutors in place, and let me tell you, my 7th grade math teachers have the hardest job in the building, because some funky phenomenon happens between 6th grade math and 7th grade math, and the scores tank, and they're excellent stinking teachers. And it demoralizes them to see their scores drop. I've literally had high performing, high EVOS, blue, blue, blue. That's the color associated with exceeding growth. 6th grade math teachers go to 7th grade and go to not met. Okay. It's demoralizing. It's rough. It's the content that it's multiple fold. You've given us tutors in that grade level, and our 7th grade teachers are feeling bolstered and they feel like this is doable. We can meet our goals. We have resources to give these kids additional support. They are seeing gains support. So thank you for adding that. Nice job. Lastly, our student growth goals. You've heard Dr. Harvey say students have to own their goals. Our students all have individually set professional goals, because school is more than just get the grade. That's just compliance. What do you want to do with this? And you can walk up down the halls and you should be able to ask kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I had a kid say, well, I want to be a neuroscientist, or I want to be a diesel mechanic. All right, well, now you have a purpose for why you're doing this thing we call school. They also have academic goals. And if students meet their performance goal for each common assessment, there's a celebration for them, and they chart their progress. That is new this year. Finally, we have to inspect what we expect, and we have several methods in which we're providing instructional feedback for our teachers through walkthroughs and positive feedback, because I believe if you tell teachers what they're doing well and say repeat that as often as you can, they will be more successful than if you constantly try to fix what's not working. So there are processes in place. And if I can go ahead and answer your question that you're going to say about what you can do, I have 3 or 4 things here. One is we recognize that students come to us with challenges. It's all revolves around poverty and all the things that have to go with that. It would be absolutely amazing for us to be able to support some of those most challenging situations with not looking at a child and saying, get out of the building. It would be great to have an alternative learning environment within my building to where we can say, you're not there yet. Let me support you with your current mental health concerns or your current behavioral concerns, provide you excellent instruction within the building to where we can transition students into a learning environment that can support them with whatever is currently preventing them from being successful in the regular classroom, and then quickly transition them right back out while saying, because you're important here, you're staying here, you're staying in school, you're just not meeting those expectations yet. Also, I would love for you to continue the special projects that you funded this year. Again, it's all about time. So we need multiple years of these additional resources so that we can benefit over them over a long term. Nothing is one and done in schools like ours. I will piggyback on Dr. Harvey's comment about the accountability model. It is absolutely ridiculous that 20% of our value is on growth and 80% is proficiency. My child at New Salem Elementary School, I don't care, he's going to pass that test. But I'm looking mostly at, is he growing a year plus every year? So yeah, you're not going, I don't care about the 4 or 5. If he's a 5, did he still grow a year? If he didn't, I'm not happy. Growth is more important than that 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I would say we need to advocate for it to be at least 50-50 or more. And then also one thing about that is in the middle school, one thing to keep in mind is every single kid is tested. No child can hide. Every subject area, no matter what. In the elementary schools, it's 3rd, 4th, and 5th. In the high school, it's a select group of tests. That's a challenge. And that's just a reality. And I'm okay with accountability. That's just one thing to keep in mind. I greatly appreciate what you do for us. I am confident that we will grow over time in our transformation efforts. I could not ask to work in a better cluster with better people in any better leadership. Thank you. And I welcome you in our building and to see our wonderful school.
Any questions for Mr. Ferguson?
Ladies first. Well, Mr. Ferguson, again, I can't say enough about the strides you've made at the school. We, again, are blessed, as I'm sure I'll be saying that for all the speakers this morning, to have you. You are the right person at the right place at the right time. And we are very lucky to have you. Could you elaborate a little bit on the first item you mentioned, the support with alternative learning on your wish list? What would that entail as far as making that happen?
Sure. It could be as simple as a 1 FTE or a full-time certified teacher that could support. When we were in Houston, we visited a school where they employed a person that ran a computer lab that was a online rigorous math program, ran students as a enrichment process of their day. And the program assessed the student, provided instruction, provided remediation. So if you had a teacher that was able to facilitate a lab and could facilitate reading instruction, math instruction, to where a student who otherwise might be out of school could be in an alternative learning environment within the school, getting instruction, working through their challenges, how much better could that be? And it also, regardless of all the positive benefits of the academics, it's sending the message, you're going to be here. This is where you belong. You're just not quite where you need to be yet. Or your world's spinning out of control in this moment, but we're going to work through it and we have resources to help you with it. Whereas if without those resources, they might have to be out of school.
Do you have the physical room at your school
Yes.
to house this? I assume you
Yes.
would utilize a separate classroom or
Yes.
group of classrooms.
Yes.
How many students do you, off the top of your head, feel like this would be applicable for? Would one teacher do it?
Absolutely.
To start?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
The essence would be to have a small number of students, because the number of students
focus.
truly on that level of crisis
Uh-huh.
fluctuates, but it's not, like I said earlier about suspensions, it's not enormous. But the impact of having that student in that classroom versus in the mainstream, a rising tide lifts all ships. It helps across the board.
So you need one more very special teacher to add to your faculty to make this happen.
That would make it happen, because we're already 1-to-1. So you've got the tech right there.
Okay.
I've got a question to piggyback that. The students that are OSS and they're doing their work online, how successful are they completing their work on time and properly?
It is safe to say that that's probably not happening.
Because many of those kids that are OSS think it's a
Lack-
day off.
And lack the motivation to get that work done.
Okay.
What this could mean, what Mr. Ferguson is talking about, and also Dr. Harvey and I have talked about this, is could be the identification of new funding to hire additional staff or the shifting of current resources. And so you could have a situation where in both of or in any of these schools, and well, not Walter Bickett, but at the secondary level, instead of having to have kids go to an alternative setting like South Providence, you could have your own type of different South Providence type of a program, but physically located on these two schools, if that makes any sense.
Okay. Well, how do you work that with the specials, say like the PE class and lunch and things like that? Do they mainstream for that part of it, or is that also going to be self-contained, if you will, for lack of a better term? Is that?
I imagine it would all depend on the current needs of the student.
Okay.
I imagine the great thing about it is you could completely tailor it to the need of the child.
All students would receive those classes regardless of the
Right.
program they're in.
Right.
But
All
whether or
students
not
receive access.
whether or not you send them as a group or a larger group,
Gotcha.
might just depend on what's going to help them be the most
You
successful.
can figure that out.
And it could be a much more fluid placement as opposed to long-term placement.
Mr. Ferguson.
Yes, sir.
And I'll go back to Dr. Harvey too. When I taught at Monroe 06, 07, I think Dr. Webb had a program like that on campus in the trailers. Is that still in place, or Mr. Wade was the instructor back there? But what I'm hearing Mr. Ferguson talk about sounds like what they had at Monroe High School in 06, 07, the year I was there.
I'm not familiar with that program. Dr. Breedlove, myself sat down this summer to work through the same thing Mr. Ferguson's talking about. And high school, it's a lot easier to do than it is at the middle school. We've come up with what we call the YES Academy, Youth Experiencing Success, because the classroom environment is not for every child. And you have to sometimes, again, addition through subtraction, sometimes moving a student to an alternative learning environment helps 24 other students tremendously. And it just takes a couple weeks to get that student on track. Right now, I'm working with Dr. Breedlove and Dr. Jones about hiring a behavior specialist through some funding that I have left over in Dr. Jones's account. Because it's okay to move that student to that environment, but if you're not intervening on the behaviors of the student and providing the resources that a student needs or teaching the behaviors that are expected, then he's going to end up staying there. So how do we get him there, get him the help and support he needs, structures, put the structures in place to help him be successful, and then move him back? What I've seen happen, and I'm not saying who did it, but I've seen over my 20 years, 19 plus years, is that it's a one-way street. And that's not been effective, because I've been at Benton Heights and I've worked with the kindergarten class that are now my seniors for those 20 years. Yes, sir. Okay. I've seen those kids come all the way through, and I could have told you when I was the principal of Benton Heights, these kids need something different. Their behaviors impeding their learning. And so we have the YES Academy, but we're only partially implementing what needs to be done for those students. We have the curriculum format to provide access in all areas better than the middle school does, because of the resources high school have, because not every kid takes art, music, PE, I don't know, chorus, what else you offer at the middle school now, because they have those elective classes that can be virtually taught as well. But the missing piece is that not only does he need the curriculum piece, in my opinion, because I've got the curriculum piece, I need the behavior support piece as well. And I'm hopeful that after my meeting with Dr. Jones and Dr. Breedlove tomorrow, that I'll be able to put that person in place and have them start working ASAP.
Well, to get back to you, Mr. Ferguson, what Mr. Sides asked was what my main question. If you've got the room, hopefully we can work with Dr. Houlihan and facilitate help real fast, because I was thinking mobile classroom, but if you've got the facility, that's great.
That would be transformative.
Well, I don't think we can expect results from dynamic people like we have sitting here today without giving 110% support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. New to our team in Union County Public Schools is the principal of East Union Middle School, Mr. Terrence Sanders, already making a tremendous impact upon his school. Mr. Sanders, good morning.
Good morning. My name is Terrence Sanders, and I'm the proud principal of East Union Middle School. I'm excited to be here to share some of the great things that are taking place at East Union and some of the strategies that we are putting into place so that we can next year at this time say that we're no longer a low-performing school. So we have what's called 4 pillars for success at East Union Middle School. The first is a culture of high expectations. 100% of our students will make expected growth as measured on the EOGs. We're not saying that 100% of our students will be proficient, because we know that there are some large deficits with some of our students. So we do expect that each and every student is going to make a year's worth of growth. For some students, we know they would need 3 or 4 years to be on grade level. But the expectation is that every student is going to make expected growth, and in some cases exceed growth this year. Our growth index, unfortunately, we have not met the growth standard over the last several years, but we are committed to working as a team to make sure that we do meet growth this year. We are looking actually to exceed growth, but at the bare minimum, meeting growth will be a huge boost to our school and to the community. One of the challenges that we've had in years past has been the attendance rate for not only our students, but for our staff as well. So we do have a goal in place for students and staff. So it's at 95%. I would like for it to be 98, 99%, but I do realize that things happen in life. So we are closely monitoring each and every day. We have ongoing competitions between grade levels. We also have competition between teachers and students because it's important that if students are there and we have a substitute in their place, they're not getting that quality education that only a teacher can provide. So at East Union, all staff members must be passionate and relentless about the work that we do. At the beginning of the school year, we sat down as a school and developed what we considered roles for the principal and for the teachers. And this was a joint effort, so it wasn't me as the principal sitting down saying that this is what I'll do as the principal and this is what you'll do as the teachers. It's what do you need in terms of leadership on this campus? And leadership is just not just me as the principal. I have a very talented group of assistant principals. We all are relatively new to the school. 3 of the 4 first year at the school, 1 member, this is his 2nd year. So we're still learning our teachers, our students, and our families. But one of the major things that they said was, we want a leader who's visible around campus, being positive in interactions with students, with the staff, and with families. One of the first things that I decided to do was to relocate my office to the very front of the school. Although I'm rarely in my office, when I am there, it does provide an excellent opportunity for me to be able to interact with families, whether it's a mom or dad coming in for a good reason, or if they're a little upset and they just need, someone to talk to. Our receptionist is that first face, but then I'm sometimes that second person. So it has done wonders as far as being able to get out there and talk to our families. That is knowledge about instruction and data. I would like to think that I'm a very strong instructional leader and that I use data to make decisions. And that was one of the things that our teachers said they expected in their instructional leader. Develop and support teachers. We know at East Union that oftentimes it can be hard to staff, and it's not necessarily because of the school itself, but geography does play a part. We are located in Marshville, and if you don't live in the area, it can be a 45 minute drive. So that's oftentimes the geography does play a part in being able to recruit teachers. Also, the development and the support of the teachers is something that's also huge. We have established what's called a teacher leadership framework model, and it's something that we're doing in-house to recognize our teachers who are getting great results. Although we are low performing, we do have teachers who are getting great results year in and year out. And the goal is to have those teachers work with their peers to assist them with also getting those same type of results. So we've identified a strategy of who those leaders will be. We're looking at a combination of things. We're looking at EVOS data. We're looking at their teacher observation data. We're looking at survey data over the years. And so those teachers applied to be teacher leaders. So they submitted resumes. They did everything that you would do as if you were applying for a job. The last bullet under the principal's role is a commitment to getting better each and every day. One of the sayings that we have at East Union is you don't have to be bad in order to get better. As an experienced principal, I know I still have room to grow and develop. And the same thing goes for our teachers. And so we're willing to say that, hey, I need help with this. Our teacher's role is developing student learning goals. In the month of November, we spent time as a leadership team meeting with every single teacher who had EVOS data, whether it was exceeded growth or it was not making growth. And we went over, what impact does this make on your classroom instruction? Because we have teachers who get great results working with some of our students who are identified as lower performing, but they really struggle when they're having to work with kids who are higher performing, and vice versa. So we sat down to talk about how can we differentiate instruction to meet the needs of all of our students? Because in every classroom at East Union, you're going to have a mix of students. So it's important that our teachers feel equipped to be able to support the needs of all of their students. These were very, very good data conferences. We all left with questions because I don't think any of us are experts when it comes to EVOS, but working together, we were able to formulate a plan to move forward to address student achievement levels. Our teachers, with the support of our leadership, collects, tracks, and uses student data to drive instruction. I actually brought a couple things with me to share, but what the important piece to know is this, that we look at each assessment, and after each assessment, we're disaggregating the data to know what happened on this assessment with our students. Sometimes we'll get bogged down that, oh, only 50% of my kids passed this assessment. But when you dig down deeper into the standards, you'll see that, well, on this particular standard, 90% of my kids rocked. They did a great job on that. So the question I'm always going to ask teachers, what did you do that resulted in your kids getting 90%? We don't need haphazard things happening. We need to have, if this is a strategy that you used with for this particular standard and you got 90%, how is it that you're sharing that with your colleagues? What can we do with the other standard? Well, you weren't quite so high. So we go through and look at each question as part of our data conferences after each assessment. Teachers also work with leaders to design effective lesson plans, units, and assessments. That's done in a collaborative fashion. They each have a common planning time daily. Our admin team, they each have a content area for which they're assigned. So I have an assistant principal who's responsible for leading the math meeting, one for ELA or reading, English language arts, one for science, one for social studies. And the goal in designing it that way is for that administrator to truly be an expert in that particular content area. We all support teachers across the entire school, but I know if it's a science question, I'm going to go to my AP who's over science, who's going to reach out and get resources and that kind of thing. So the teachers feel comfortable knowing who to go to support the area that they're responsible for providing instruction. And just like for me as the principal and my assistant principals commit to get better each day, it's also something that is expected of our teachers. So at East Union, all teachers, all leaders, all students, everyone is responsible for the second pillar, which is data-driven instruction. If you walk through East Union, every person you come into contact should be able to quickly tell you their grade level and content data. As I said, we schedule data conferences. They're ongoing and scheduled. So each month we send out a calendar of when the common assessment takes place, when your data conference will be. It's never a surprise as to what questions will be asked. We use a very scripted format. So it's consistent from one administrator to the next and from one teacher to the next. Because what we don't want teachers to think is that depending on what administrator you're working with, they're either going to be harder or they're going to be easier. So we've calibrated ourselves in a manner with our walkthroughs and observations and with data conferences that we're all on the same page. We sit in on each other's data conferences and walkthroughs, and we provide feedback to each other. And as the principal, I get plenty of feedback from them during walkthroughs and observations, but it's a great way for me to continue to grow. With our walkthroughs and observations, we use data from that also to plan our professional development. The goal is that each administrator completes 2 walkthroughs daily. And for the week, that's 10. So it sounds easier when you say 2 per day versus 10 in a week. And each administrator is responsible for providing face-to-face feedback to the teachers observed using what's called a 6-step to feedback protocol. So it's again a very scripted but consistent way for each member of the leadership team to give feedback. So we stay away from things like, I like what I saw. We give evidence, fact-based of what we saw during classroom observations. So this has been something that has taken the bias out of the observations themselves. We have multifaceted systems of intervention and enrichment, some of which I'll talk about here in a second. But one of the biggest things that we have is we have 7th grade tutors, which has been a huge help to support the initiative of small group instruction. Oftentimes, small group instruction is something that people think only should happen at the elementary level. However, that's not true. We need it in middle school, and I'm sure in high school it probably also has a place. But definitely at the middle school level, it has been an adjustment. With implementing small group instruction, we use data for that purpose to group our students. Our math tutors, because they are not trained teachers, they do require support, and the support for them looks like every 6 weeks we have a just-in-time training led by our strongest math teachers on that grade level to give them a preview of what's going to take place for the next 6 weeks that we're approaching. In addition to that, they are invited every week to a grade level planning session so that the teacher that they're supporting, they can go over the data. Because again, these are individuals who are not trained as teachers. So we want to make sure that we're providing additional support when they're working with the students. And this is something that's going very well. The small group setting, our kids are really responding well to being in those small groups. And we use a push-in method where the tutors go into the classroom to support students, but we also use a pull-out method where they pull the kids out for small group instruction. So we use a combination of both. Celebrate progress of our students and staff. I will not sit here and say that on our next common assessment, which is tomorrow for math, that we're going to have 100%. But I will say that we're going to celebrate the progress that I know some of our students are going to make. And we actually had a math meeting yesterday, and we talked about what the goals are for the math assessment that's going to take place tomorrow. So we have data tracking going on in the classroom. The students can open their binder, and they'll tell you that I made a 40% on the last assessment, but I know on this assessment I'm going to be 60%. So it's a way for us to not wait until the very end of the year and rely on one assessment to determine if we are being successful. Okay, so this is probably my favorite part, is the instructional piece itself. I love being in the classrooms. And when we're in the classrooms as leaders, it's important for us to have a framework for which we're looking. And the first thing is the classroom positive and respectful? That's something that we have been fortunate through the foundations training with Safe and Civil Schools. We have a guideline of what should it look like in the building with adult supervision. We are very strategic in placing adults at points all throughout the building. During transitions, kids see smiling faces. So if there's something that's going on that they need to report, they don't have to wait. There's somebody at each door to greet them. That starts at the time when the buses roll in the morning until all 32 buses pull off in the afternoon. We have those things in place. Our discipline management, we still have a high number of referrals, but we are having conversations with teachers about how can we de-escalate situations as they arise. So that's one thing that we're still working on, is making sure that sometimes we don't escalate the situation, but we actually can provide an alternative way of dealing with a classroom management issue. Lessons must have a clear purpose for learning. This is something that I know the district did a lot of work on last year, and we're continuing that with the content, language, and social goals. The content goal, we are required to teach from the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. So easy enough to know that. Our language goal, how do we want our kids to be able to communicate their learning? Do we want them to be able to read something, to write about something, to be able to discuss something? And our social goal, of course, is how are we working together? Oftentimes teachers, and when I say teachers, I include myself because I am a teacher still. We will put kids in a group, but we don't necessarily teach them how to work in a group. And we as adults know that our livelihood is built on working with others. So these are things that we have to teach our students how to work in a group. You walk through East Union, you're going to see students who are actively participating in the lesson. We don't do passive learning because that does not produce students who are going to demonstrate that they have learned the material. So although you will see walking in classrooms, you may see kids with earbuds in and their device. You're also going to see active engagement with hands. You're going to see kids moving around. You're going to hear noise. I'm a teacher who noise doesn't bother me if it's noise for the purpose of learning. Our teachers are expected to deliver content that first is accurate. So do you know your content? Are you spending time preparing? So part of our PLCs, when we are meeting with teachers, we practice on each other. We never want to go live on kids. We never want to practice on children. So we practice on each other. And there have been times where I've tried to teach a lesson in front of my teachers and it didn't go well. They give me feedback. We give each other feedback. But that prepares us for going into the moment in front of the kids. We've also started something where we've encouraged our kids to give our teachers feedback. We tried it on a Friday. It was called Feedback Fridays. And what one of our teachers designed was a rubric for the kids to share how effective the teacher is at delivering instruction. Because we believe that our kids should be able to, because they're sitting in the classroom all day, provide feedback to the person providing instruction to them. it was interesting because the questions that were asked, the teacher tried to stay away from questions like, "Do you like me?" You know, did I teach in a way that helped you learn the material? Is there a different way I could have done something? And so the kids were honest. I've had kids tell me, you know, during observations that, "Hey, what if she were to teach it this way?" And so they're really in tune to what they feel will help them be better students. Maximize instructional time. We operate with a sense of urgency. It's not where it needs to be, but we are taking each day, we're getting closer to that. When you walk in classrooms, you're going to see timed agendas. You're going to see teachers using timers. We operate fast. We want to create that illusion of things are moving faster than they really are. And the kids respond to that. So even when we're transitioning throughout the building, we don't take our time walking to get, we move quickly because we don't have any time to waste. Engaging students in work that requires higher level thinking skills, differentiation instruction. We do have, although our numbers, when you look at our data, you'll say, okay, they didn't make growth. Their math level is 48, their reading level is 44. We have some high performing students at East Union Middle School, and we can't lose sight of that. So it's so important that we are differentiating for the needs of all of our learners. And the way that we do that is we have to know what our kids know. And we can't wait to an assessment. We have to continuously check for student understanding. A recent training that we had was on checking for understanding. And so when you walk in the classroom, the goal is every 8 minutes, there's a check for student understanding of some sort. So whether you're asking a question, you're doing some type of checkpoint, you're asking the kids to demonstrate something, but every 8 minutes, our teachers need to know if our students are understanding this, because waiting to the end of that 84-minute block does not serve us well. And when we could stop in the moment and address the misunderstanding. Okay. So I don't want to paint the picture that all is perfect at East Union Middle School, because we do have our challenges and we are aware of them, and we are working very hard to address them. So the first thing that the math tutors, which I've already discussed, it is working very well. However, our math scores are not necessarily reflecting where I would like for it to be at this point. So tomorrow, as part of our math meeting, we're sitting down with our math tutors to make sure that we're still operating within the guidelines of how the program should look, that we're not having 5 and 6 kids in a group, that the teacher also is meeting with a group during that time, and that we've grouped the kids in a way where our students who have the most need are working with the trained professional who is the teacher. And so those are some check-in things that we have to do tomorrow. We also have extended school day, and we benefit from having transportation to provide our students a ride home, because that was something that we knew if we wanted our kids to stay after school, when so many of them ride buses, we're talking 32 buses, that we needed to provide transportation. So Dr. Jones did secure that funding for us. We also provide lunch. I'm sorry, not lunch. It's a snack after school. And we also do before school. The before school, we do not provide transportation, and that's not as, it's not as, in the afternoon, the expectation is math on Monday, reading on Tuesday, science and social studies on Thursday. But morning tutoring is more the teacher's plan, how that looks, because we have teachers who they would like to tutor after school, but they just can't. And so many of them have said, can we tutor before school, which is great for me. Well, yes, go for it, do it. So they reached out to the parents. The parents dropped them off first thing in the morning. It's about 7:30. So they tutor from 7:30 to 8:10 each morning. And that's something that they decide on them, right, on their own, and we're running with that. We started Jumpstart last summer, and it was for our rising 6th graders. So it's a way to assimilate them, bring them into the East Union culture. We've learned some things from that going forward for next year. We had a good turnout. We had 86 students who participated. We would like for that to be more, because we have 312 6th graders. So we would love for that number to increase. And thinking about that, our 7th and 8th grade teacher said, wait, what about us? So this year, we're going to have jump start for each grade level. So we're going to jump start our 5th graders to 6th grade, jump start our 6th graders to 7th grade, and jump start our 7th graders to 8th grade. And we really want to look at those standards that are really difficult in that upcoming grade level and start to address those right away. We're continuing the use of iReady as a computer adaptive resource. So that's something that we are using in 6th grade and 8th grade ELA and math, and then in 7th grade ELA. We're not using it in 7th grade because we do have Carnegie and some other resources that we're using at that grade level. We have a full-time social worker and mental health therapist who works very closely with our teachers to support our students, along with our counselor on each grade level. So we meet usually monthly to talk about the needs of our students, but that has been a really, can't thank you guys enough for that. Our teachers would definitely tell me to make sure I thank you guys for that, because it is another support, and it is a person who is trained to deal with some of the mental crisis things that we as educators specialize training. So we are really excited about what's going on, but we know going forward, we still have a lot of work to do. And it starts with hiring for next year. We're already thinking about how do we hire. All of my administrators either have or will complete Haberman training so that we can identify the right fit for East Union. I don't need just any teacher. I operate like it's a sports world where we're recruiting. And you may be a 5-star talent, but are you a 5-star talent that's going to fit the culture of East Union? And so we're already starting to put fillers out of different folks who can come in and continue the work that we're doing at East Union.
Any questions for Mr. Sanders?
So last year, unfortunately, when I got here, we didn't have a lot of time, but we sent flyers to all of the students from our feeder elementary schools. And we did Connect Ed messages through Blackboard. This year, we are going to do even more. We're going to actually make visits to those elementary schools in the spring so that we can really get the parents, make them aware of it early on. We also want to utilize our 6th graders who attended so they can talk to, because many of them have siblings in the elementary school still, to tell them how beneficial it was. We did surveys last year, so we'll be able to publish that information and share with parents. Many of our kids said how they didn't feel afraid coming into the middle school, because oftentimes for parents who is their first child going to middle school, there's that angst so we really want to make sure that we put them at ease.
On that point, that's a great question, Ms. Sturdivant. And I've talked to several middle school principals about this, neither one of them, but it is something that I'm going to challenge our middle school principals to think hard about, and even our high school principals. As a parent who has a 5th grader now, I know that if my 5th grader is already having questions about middle school, other 5th graders are having questions, and it's almost December. And typically we wait until May to have some kind of a come to the middle school and see what we're all about. Right. And that's too late. We should be doing that now, or at least in January or February, because parents have questions and they're making plans. And so part of the lesson that we learned from, as Mr. Sanders says, is they've got to start marketing that Jumpstart program at the beginning of the spring semester. You can't wait until June or May to get that word out.
Absolutely.
What is your attendance like for the after school and before school and Saturday schools?
So we have not started Saturday school. Saturday school will start in January.
Yeah.
Our after school, it fluctuates. We have some days 50, some days 75. We also have Jumpstart going on at the same time.
Okay.
So I don't want to say we're competing, but we do have some students who stay for Jumpstart. So any given afternoon, we'll have probably about 100 to 150 students in the building for some type of after school intervention, but some of it might be more tied into our 21st century than our actual tutorial.
On your, well, first of all, Mr. Sanders, I'd like to belatedly welcome you to Union County Public Schools. It's obvious your passion for your school and your profession. It will serve us very well, and I'm very excited about the things you're going to do at your school. As far as the Saturday school you'll be starting in January, what type of student population will that be? Will it be the same population that's maybe can't attend the afternoon tutoring, or is it more of a makeup? What do you envision your student population for that being?
So the students who we've identified for Saturday school will be some of the same students who are identified during the regular school day. We looked at last year's data, and we focused in on students who were between 1 and 3 points on the scale score away from passing the EOG last year. And if that had happened, our school would have probably made growth. We were very close last year, very close. So looking at all of those students, those are the students who we really want to get in because, again, they're 1 and 3 points away. Don't know how many questions that necessarily equates to, but we want to make sure that we, first of all, sustain all the kids who were proficient, but those kids who were so close that we continue to push those as well. In addition, we do have a subgroup. It's our English learners. We are focused in on them because if you look at their data, many of them have exited, but they're not necessarily performing as well on the EOGs as we would like for them to do. So they will be invited to be a part of using a program called Read 180. It's something that the district already has licensure for purchased. And so we have teachers who are trained in that, and they'll be working with that group of students on sorry, lost my train of thought.
Saturday? Will that be part of the Saturday?
Yes,
school?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Sorry about that.
And I assume you're in the same boat as Dr. Harvey. You don't have transportation resources or funding or any kind of a meal for Saturday school?
I will hopefully have that. Let me say that we have it for after school.
Right.
So I anticipate that, I will be begging and pleading with Dr. Jones and be able to get that.
I'm just going to go out on a limb and say you're not going to have to beg that hard.
Okay. Yeah.
Do you have some of the same challenges your other colleagues have mentioned as far as a PTSO or PTO at your school?
I do not. This year we have we energized our PTO. So I have a fabulous board, and they are committed to doing so many great things for our school. So I am fortunate that this year they really have, it's a new group coming in, and they have just done wonders. Our goal now, of course, is to grow the PTO. One of the challenges, you can't have 5 people who are having to do all the work. So we talked about strategies. How do we get more people involved in PTO? We had a staff challenge where the goal is for 100% of our staff to be members of the PTO, because I think that sends a strong message to the community that the staff is vested in this. So we're still working to try to up our numbers, but we do have a core group, and we are fortunate that they have kids who are, they're not all 8th graders. So they'll be with us for a couple more years to continue to build the PTO.
Okay. And last but not least, the magic question: what can we do as a Board of Education to support your efforts at your school?
One of the things that jumps out when you look at our 6th grade classrooms, our numbers are high. In some of our classrooms, there are some classrooms where there's 27, 28, 29 students, and it's a huge adjustment from what they see in the elementary level. And so we're trying to figure out how do we structure our classes in a way so that they're not so large. And that's been one of our biggest challenges, is in balancing our classes out at the 6th grade level. Our 7th and 8th grade classes are large, but they're used to it by the time they get to 7th and 8th grade. But coming in from elementary school, where the class sizes are much smaller, and then they come to middle school, it is a huge number in some of our classes. So that's something that we've been talking about. What can we do to try to offset the large numbers in our classrooms?
Well, how can we help you with that? Do you need, are you looking for additional staff to make that happen, or where can we help in that effort?
That would be great. We would love to have additional staff. We do have a challenge, though. We don't really have many classrooms left at East Union. So we run into the challenge of, if we add additional teachers, we don't have the space to really put them.
So your wish list is something that we can't help you with very easily. Is there something we can do in that?
Well, another thing is just the school perception. Like Mr. Ferguson mentioned, sometimes some of our schools can get bad reps. And coming in, I heard things about East Union that are totally not true. It is a wonderful place to work. I love driving down 74 every day, going there. You have the best, the community, they're so supportive. Still a stigma about East Union. I had a young lady, an 8th grader, who wrote a letter to me, and it brought tears to my eyes when she said that some of the things that people think about the school, and it's just not true. But that's the area where help is needed. So just, continuing to spread the message of, the things that are happening at East Union, and our teachers, for them to know that we all appreciate them. I think that they know that you all appreciate them, but sometimes it gets lost when we're looking at different schools and we're not the top performing school, and we're not going to be the top performing school. They start to doubt themselves as professionals. So it's just that perception piece.
Well, we can sure do that.
Well, we appreciate that.
So one thing I want to add is my final comment about East Union, and I hope Mr. Ferguson will agree with this. I think the perception issues that are hopefully changing right now at Monroe Middle School are largely a direct result of the partnership we have with Carolina's Healthcare.
Sure.
And what's happening from a community investment standpoint around that. And I'm excited to let you all know, and I hope to come back with more of a formal kind of a presentation in the spring, but you've got a partner out in the Wingate-Marshall area called Wingate University. And we have been working this fall, and I just want to let you all know the administration there, Dr. Brown, the president, is extremely committed to working directly with East Union Middle School and other schools in that area around engagement efforts and improvement efforts. And again, I hope to come back with a similar kind of partnership like you have at Carolina's Healthcare, but perhaps with Wingate University and their different departments, and a comprehensive effort to really figure out what we could do differently and how you partner different departments with the teachers and staff at East Union Middle School. So I think those kinds of efforts can really make a big difference.
Mr. Sanders, terrific presentation. Being a retired teacher, the one thing I always learn, I still learn, I like the 8-minute segments. I was just thinking how I would have been a better teacher if I'd have had a little 8-minute timer, and every time it dinged, review. It would certainly make sure that they've learned what you've just covered in the last 8 minutes, because I just realized wait until the end of the class to review. Half of them forget what they don't understand. So I'm just amazed at the youth and the enthusiasm that I've heard so far. And now we're going to move on to the expert.
All right. If you know anything about the history of the school system or heritage, one of the names you're going to hear is Rita Webb. Rita Webb served as a principal for us and has returned as the interim principal of Walter Beckett Elementary. Good morning, Ms. Webb.
Good morning. And he is leading in to stealing my thunder here. First, I wanted to say that I am very happy to be seated here before you and still excited after 2 months, but I did not realize how honored I should have been sitting with this panel. So I'm going to have to step up my game, but I'm going to give you my best effort. I want to say to you all that when I was afforded this opportunity with Dr. Faust and Ms. McKinnon, I don't think I hesitated, did I? Okay, good. But what they did not know was that this was, in a sense, coming home for me. It took me less than a month to realize that when I'm dealing with Miss McKinnon, you don't deal in hypotheticals. You be able to provide your proof or have your evidence. So I have an artifact for you all, if you all would care to view that at your leisure. But back in 1987, I had taken a 1-year stint from this county to go to Anderson County as an administrator. It was my first administrative position. Upon returning to Union County, I came back to Walter Bickett as the assistant principal. And you will see in that article that I came to replace another young lady, another African-American young lady who happened to be my twin sister. It's all right there in black and white. So I say all of that to say to you that when I accepted this position, I knew exactly what I was coming into. I had been there for 10 years. Most of the parents who are currently at Walter Bickett were former students when I was an assistant principal at Walter Bickett. So I just want to let you know that I walked in with my eyes wide open, knowing what I was coming into, and still very excited to be there. Now, because of the short stint of time that I've been there, I have invited Ms. Geraldine Backus, who is a veteran assistant principal who has worked closely with the NC Star and School Improvement. So she's going to provide this information for you, and then I will come with a conclusion. Ms. Backus.
Good morning. My name is Ms. Backus, and I'm not veteran. This is my second year in the admin position. So I welcome the opportunity to present. I welcome the opportunity to work with the team in developing this plan. Just a little bit about myself. I've been at Walter Bickett for some time. I've been a classroom teacher. From a classroom teacher, I evolved to an interventionist and currently part of the admin team. So the opportunity to present this plan was very excited to me because I looked at the history of Walter Bickett, and as a classroom teacher, knew that this population of students exceeded growth in the past. So it was a lot of passion and a lot of love that went into this plan, and the belief that knowing that it was done before and we can do it again. So I want to preference before I start with this presentation that there's going to be a lot of talk about data, because it's our belief at Walter Bickett that the way we've been doing data needed to be changed in order for us to transform the school. Just want to talk to you a little bit about our vision, because this is shared at all our PLC, preparing all students to succeed. And that starts from the top up. When we walk into the school as administrators, what is our purpose for today? What is our goal for today? So as we huddle as admin to talk about that every day, we expect our teachers to come to the PLCs and enter the building actually with a purpose and a goal in mind. Currently at Walter Bickett, we have 125 staff members, and our enrollment as of Tuesday was 725 students. Our population consists of 25% Hispanic students, 43% African American, 3% Caucasian, and 2 other. Of that population, to give you a breakdown of the students that we are serving in each department, we have 18 students that are AIG, academic gifted students. We have 200 students that are identified as English language learners, receive services from the English ESL department. And we have 99 students that are identified as EC that has an IEP or a 504 plan. According to our EVOS data, our 3rd grade reading scores was -4.3. Our 4th grade reading gained a 0.1. Our 4th grade math gained a 2.5. 5th grade reading was a -2.5. 5th grade math was a -6.4. And a 5th grade science was a -0.6. After looking at that, that information and NC Star, we know that there were 9 indicators that we need to meet, but do we want to focus on all 9 at the same time? Do we actually think if we focus on all 9, can we get the biggest bang for our buck? So we decided to narrow it down to 4, and the 4 is the 4 that we need the most work in. So these are the 4 indicators that we will be focusing on currently. So goal 1 is the school will implement a tier instructional system that allows teachers to deliver evidence-based instruction aligned with the individual needs of students across all tiers. The second goal is the school would regularly communicate with parents, guardians about its expectation of them and the importance of curriculum at home, extending what's going on at Walter Bickett into the homes of our students. The instructional team will develop standard aligned units of instruction for each subject and grade level. And lastly, all teachers will employ effective classroom management and reinforce classroom rules and procedure by positively teaching them. So those are the 4 goals that we will be focusing on. What are the strategies to get us there? Our first goal, one of our strategies are PLCs. Remember I said we're going to be talking about data. Our PLCs are data-driven PLCs. As some of our colleagues have said, that they have an admin that's in charge of literacy and math, but so do Walter Bickett. Else, instructional administration. We have someone we have an admin that's in charge of literacy and an admin that's in charge of math. So in order for us to get our teachers to where they need to be, we need to be the specialists. So our PLCs is run by our admin, 1 for literacy and 1 for math. So you have to diverse yourself in it. You have to be prepared. You have to know your content. You have to know your standards. You need to do those model lessons. You need to outline misconceptions that children may have, and how do you solve those? So all that is taken care of at the PLCs. During our PLCs, there's some focus that the county has outlined. Are we doing the outlines for what's literacy? And are we meeting our expectations for math? The pacing aligned with the Common Core standards. We have an obligation to teach the Common Core standards. So during our PLC, you may have a good idea, but is it what's best for children? So all that's addressed there. And one more thing that I must say about the pacing is the first 2 work days, we paced out the whole year for reading, writing, and math. Does it stop there? No, because we made that pacing before the student came. So that was long-term. So then the PLC then plays a part in looking at what we paced out for the year and making the adjustments as we need it throughout the weeks and throughout the units and throughout the months if necessary. We also look at our county benchmarks. Why do we do what we do? Why do we give assessments if we're not going to spend the time to look at the assessment and guide our instruction based on our assessments? So we block out a part of time in our PLCs where we can address our reading and our math assessments and to look at where we are before we begin the process of planning. The next standard is 4.01. That's our data. Our data is different this year, and we're excited about it. Ms. McKinnon spent a lot of time with the admin teaching us about the different ways to do data. And so in the past, admin just had the data and we would just tell the teachers. But this year it's so crucial and it's so excited for our teachers and our students because the teacher has the data in their hands. So when they come to the PLCs, they have their own data. They're no longer waiting on admin to give them the data. They have their data. And so we can look at the data as far as the grade level, how the grade level is performing and give cheers to those grade levels. We can look at the teachers that performing effectively on the standards. And then from those, we make our teacher leader and our students. Our students are so excited about their data and where they are. Our students are excited about setting goals and attaining those goals. Our students are excited to know when the results are going to come out from their tests. And with student and teacher buy-in, we're well on our way of achieving what we need to achieve. We also have the MTSS, multiple tier support system. Admin has been retrained on that this year. And so what it boils down to is, are we meeting our students academically and social and emotional goals? Are we doing what we're doing? Are we putting best practices in place for our core group? What are we doing for all the students in Walter Pickett? Is it working? Is it not working? So these monthly MTSS meetings helps us to do that. What about the kids? What if it's working for 60% of the kids? What about the 20%? What is the next step for those 20%? So instead of saying that a child is EC or the child can't learn, MTSS forces us to look at, have we done everything that we can for that student before identifying them as EC or not being able to learn or just have emotional issues? Have we done everything we can? So we're excited about going through that process also. Our interventionists, we have interventionists for K1 and we have interventionists for K2 that deals with math and literacy. Our literacy interventionist deals with a program that's called LLI, Level Literacy Intervention, where they work with small group and scaffold them through their levels. Our math interventionist works alongside with our curriculum coaches and our math tutors as well, so we can be all on the same page. Because you know, if you have a lot of cook in the kitchen, then it kind of mix it up. So it's important for us to have everything aligned. And one more thing I must say about our math tutors, we're thankful for them. We're thankful that we have developed a system to make them part of our team. They're not outsiders. They come to PLCs. They meet with the curriculum coach, and we track them. We track their data. We help them develop lessons. We walk them through the lessons. We pretend that we're students and allow them to teach the lessons. And because of our fourth grade tutors, we're not there yet, but we're excited about the progress we're seeing in fourth grade. And if you don't mind, I'll just share this with you. On our first benchmark, our fourth grade students were at 55% compared to the county that's at 67. We're getting there. Our second one, we were at 68% compared to the county that's at 76. And we're still waiting on our third one. So we're not in our 20s and we're not in our 30s. So we commend that collaboration between the teachers, the tutors, the admin, the curriculum, just working together about what's best practices for the students. Because like Dr. Ferguson said, he sees it in the second grade, in seventh grade. It's the same thing as fourth graders. They have high scores. Students typically have high scores in third. They take a dip in fourth, and then in fifth they go back up. So this fourth grade, tracking this fourth grade, and I'm personally tracking the fourth grade math and the fourth grade tutor. So I'm all over it, and then share it with Ms. Webb and Dr. Bell about how are we doing. So right now we started with the push out, and we were seeing when we monitored them. So now we are back to pushing in. So the teacher can see what's going on as they collaborate and work together. We also had the fall intercession. We have data on those students. We did a pre-test prior to intercession, and we did a post-test. We also have data on keeping on how their progress throughout the year to see if we need to invite them back again for the spring intercession. Dr. Ferguson spoke to the Extended Learn Elevate K-12. We're also going to be doing that, and that was tremendous. Walter Pickett also piloted that program last year. And our science growth we made growth in science based on that. So that's something that was proven, it worked, and we want to continue that. Our next goal is our strategies for that is our foundation training. We're well on our way with that. They call them hotspots, the trouble areas in our school. We have adults to supervise all those areas. One of the drastic change that we made is when we came back from Thanksgiving, intercession, October, we changed the way our students get off the bus and enter the building in the morning. So that's worked tremendously. We proposed the plan to the staff approved it, and it's being very effective. We will also continue with our conscious discipline. Our social and emotional behavior. We have a social and emotional behavior team that meets every month. And so what that team consists of is all of the stakeholders, a member from each department. And what we do is just talk about where our kids are social and emotional. So we have a spreadsheet that tells how many write-ups the kids had, what are the consequences, where they are, their classroom performance. And we try to meet with them, with a social worker. We have a social worker, we have school psychologists, we have a behavioral health therapist that's full-time in our school, and we have the counselors. And one of the initiatives that we proposed last month is for everyone on that team to go to a classroom and model how you interact with the students, for the teachers, model appropriate behavior, model appropriate tone, because sometimes teachers have to be reminded that your tone of voice should not escalate the students. So that's the challenge. And so our next meeting, they're going to bring a report of whose classroom they went to, they visited, and what it looked like. So it's not, we can no longer say go to a classroom and do this. There's an accountability part that's tied in, and that's also data that we're going to discuss when they come back. We have the dual language classroom. We're excited about that, and that's new this year. The things we're planning this spring is our dual language cultural awareness day, where the parents can just come in and see a day of what it's like, all the things that's going on in our dual language classroom. Last week, yeah, I think we had, Ms. Webb and I attended the pre-K, and we had a day in the life of the pre-K where the parents got to act out everything that's going on in pre-K. And we're looking to do that for every grade level in the school, so we can have parents to come in and see what's going on and build on that extended learning from school to home. Well, of course, we want to meet all our goals by May of 2018. How are we going to do that? We're going to do it through our monthly monitoring. Our monthly monitoring would be our social emotional team meetings. Our monthly monitoring would be our data meeting. Our monthly monitoring would be our site-based. Our monthly monitoring would be our grade level chair, when we get our grade level chair together and we talk about grade level issues, because I mean they are going to be issues as this is new and we're transforming and we have new ideas and new suggestions, and there may be some people that's hesitant. We want to hear it, so that's why we have grade level meetings every month. So the grade level chair comes and he or she would bring their ideas to the team, and we just talk it through. We nothing is too minute, nothing is too small on this journey. We want to hear you, we respect you, we want us all to be on the same page, we want the train to be going in the same direction, because we know it can be done and it will get accomplished. I already spoke about the data meeting. I don't know why I put that in there twice, but maybe because we're just excited about these data meetings and just and just watching our data and watching our kids grow. And so we have that. But one more thing that that's also big and new for us this year is the way we're using our iReady. And we're thankful for the county for buying the license for the yellow kids and the red kids. The yellow kids are kids that are 1 grade level, and the red kids are 2 grade levels below. And so the kids get on iReady, and there's lessons that's customized to meet their need. So if they work with a tutor, the tutor doesn't have to figure it out. It's already figured out for them. It's all about best practices. It's all about moving students. It's all about doing what's best for students. And at the end of the day, we will achieve that goal.
Ms. Backus has hit some of our key points, and I thank her for that. But I wanted to mention several other things that are very, very key in what is transforming Walter Pickett at this time. We have a central services presence in that building, and it is not just via email or a phone call. It is a physical presence of the administrators coming in, and they're walking through with us, and they're doing these walkthroughs in the classrooms, and they're leading and they're guiding and they're showing and they're providing anything that we've asked for as far as information or a need. They have done everything they can to get it to us. The dual language program, I'm excited about that. It's only in kindergarten. It's already been planned for first grade. I'm trying to phrase this correctly. It's already being planned for first grade, and I would love to see it go through fifth. I think that's an opportunity that these kids have that will make a major impact in their lifelong careers. That is so key. Please, whatever you can do, if you don't do anything else, keep that program there for as long as these kids and these parents are willing to have it. Also, I was thinking this morning, I kept hearing all these young men talking about, yeah, it's all young men, about morale. And I had put something in here that I've only been there a short while, but I've been saying to the staff, something is different. And I can already see it. Something is different. And here's how I phrased it. My phrasing is old school. I said, there's a joy in that building now. There's a joy in that building. It's not a joy, it's a morale. They're starting to believe again that these kids are as capable as any other kids they've ever had the opportunity to work with. I'm enjoying it, but then, you know, I've been known to enjoy many things that some people say aren't necessarily of the smartest or brightest, but I am truly enjoying my opportunity there. I will say to you, you have two strong assistant principals who are curriculumly strong. We have a support from Central Services that is unbelievable. I can only see this school getting better. When you walk into the doors, right there in front of the front office, there's this wonderful long mission statement, and it has everything in it that needs to be there. But the very last line is what is so key to me. And that line says something that we share with kids and that we ask of kids every day. And it is simply, be the best you can be. So we thank you for this opportunity, and just keep working with us.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. Webb?
Well, first of all, a comment. What does it say about a school system when we can pull somebody like Ms. Webb out of retirement into active duty? How about that? You can't get much luckier than that. I want to commend both you ladies. It is obvious that there is a new spirit at Walter Bickett, and I am very excited to see what's going to happen. One quick question, or well, two. As far as your intercession, do you have transportation and meals available on those tutoring intercessions?
Yes, we do.
Okay, so you're taking care of there. How about an active PTO, PTSO?
No, sir, but there's a strong emphasis for us to re-engage our parents. I guess whether it's me or anybody else, the benefit of my being there is that I know these parents. So when they come in, I take the opportunity, and sometimes I make the opportunity to invite them to come in. If they're having issues or not, they are being told that they are welcome, they are needed, they're desired. So we have a strong emphasis to get our parents that there's not a PTO. I wish there was. Yeah. And I'm going to take this opportunity to say this because we are sitting here right now trying to decide, you know, what we can do to boost the morale at Christmas time. And we're having to decide between you all deciding some luxurious things. We're trying to decide if they can get a biscuit, a Bojangles biscuit. So we do need to find ways to have the opportunity to say to this staff, we value what you do. We appreciate what you do. And we know that it's not easy. And you know, just stay with us. And to you all as a board, I've spent about 30 plus years in this business. I've spent 20 years going to the Board of Education. I truly understand the job that you do, the commitment that you have, and for you all, the passion that you have for students here in Union County. So I want you to know how much we appreciate that. And if you can just work with this school and provide them what they need, I promise you, this staff is willing to do the work. They are very willing to do the work.
Well, with that being said, is there anything with your experience, is there anything we're not doing that we could be doing as a Board of Education to support all the folks' good efforts there?
No, sir. No, because when you know there's a need, you try to provide it. I would say no. In my experience, I just have to appreciate what it is that you do and continue doing it.
Well, I'll speak for my colleagues on the board to say that you have it and you will continue to have it. To everybody at all, not just Walter Bickett, but everybody, you have and will continue to have our 100% support. And do not be shy about reaching out through whatever channels are appropriate to what you need. But thank you particularly, ladies, for the great things that are happening there, because it is obvious that the joy is back to Walter Bickett.
Miss Webb, I loved it when you said I'm old school, because now there's two people in here that's old school.
Yes, sir.
Uh, for the benefit of everybody else, my wife was an assistant before she ended up getting her master's and national board certification. She decided, but she worked under Rita Webb, and she said Rita Webb was the only principal she ever worked under that never forgot she was a teacher. And that is the greatest thing you can say about a principal. And that joy in the building is Rita working with. I mean, I think everybody appreciates knowing that you appreciate them. And Rita and I go back several years. I didn't really know her till about 3 years ago, although I had heard about her my whole life. And from my wife, because she always said, I wish I had Rita Webb as my principal after she became a teacher. So I could go on all morning, but I'll stop. Thank you for all you do and your commitment to Union County Public Schools. And not to take away from your assistant principal, that was a very good presentation. And I'm sure if I live long enough, I'll be able to say the same thing about you one day.
And I want to echo Mr. Rape's comments, just to all of you and to your teams, to your teachers. Thank you for what you're doing. I know that in all of these schools, you're working as hard as you can and as smart as you can. To the board and to staff, we must continue the level of investment that we've put in place in these schools, whether that's through grants or local funds that have been redirected. The impact that I hope you've heard around this board's commitment to things like tutors and social workers and mental health therapists, they're making a difference. But as Mr. Ferguson said, this also takes time. This cannot be a 1 year, one shot. We want to get results and we expect immediate results. But this is going to be a progress over time that I would ask we all need to continue to evaluate and make sure we're investing properly. But thank you, all of you, to your teams as well.
And if I could add one comment on top of the superintendent's, he certainly gave a great summary on that. One thing also to note in this that is new this year as well is you've heard about the involvement of the district in the schools. We've always been involved in supporting our schools, but this year you have the teaching and learning division that's really focused on supporting instruction and really looking at the teaching piece and looking at the teaching lens. And then we have the school performance office where we have directors that are going in and coaching and working. And anything you want to add, Dr. Faust, or anything you want to say, because your work is important at this.
Sure. What we have been doing and what we hope to continue doing is especially just having our leaders look specifically at data, helping them develop teachers, and just for the school board to know that it takes a little more money to educate children who are not on grade level. We have to do something different. And what you can see and what you probably heard, and I hope you were able to connect it, is that they're doing something different. If you were to speak to other schools that didn't look like they're not actually, they're educating their kids, but they're having to do a little extra, putting an extra emphasis on specific things. And one of the things that they didn't mention, but we are doing in our office that actually is part of our brand is the attendance counselors. And so we meet with them, and I actually have a meeting with them later actually in December. And we're talking about what they do and how can they help make sure that the kids are coming to school, because as the school leader, they have to make sure that the instruction is taking place in the building. But one of the things that we want to make sure is that our attendance counselors are getting the kids in the building, so they're not having to go out and find the kids, that we have people actually designated in this county. And this is something that, I'm assuming that we may be one of the only counties that has this particular position to help support principals, is this attendance counselors, also those psychotherapists. Have a meeting with them today, and we are looking at what can we do to support principals. We're meeting also with the social workers today also to look at what supports they can also give and what parental supports they can give to help. So we want everyone to know that you're not in this alone. The principal position is a lonely position, and it does get tiresome, and turnaround work does burn you out. I understand and I know the work. And so I would be lying if I said that it's not hard work, and I know that you get tired, but we appreciate the work that you can do. And it's anytime, you definitely have all of our cell phone numbers. You have our And we're in your buildings, whether you sometimes you're like, oh, here they come again. But we're there. We're there as a support mechanism, and it's not a gotcha. I tell people we don't hide behind dumpsters. We're not looking to see, what you're doing. We're wanting to get in and help you get the work done. So thank you again for the work that you're doing and all the support that you're giving to the schools.
Mr. Ray.
Dr. Jones, before we leave this and let these folks get back to their job, would you be the appropriate person, or through them individually? I would like to have figures for the Saturday school at Monroe High School to have transportation provided and a meal, the cost figures for their current enrollment, as well as a projection, the top end if their enrollment increases in the Saturday school.
Yes, sir.
And for that to start at the semester break, if we can get it going that fast, we can find money out of this current fiscal year's, redirect funds from this current year's fiscal year's budget to implement that fast. And as far as Mr. Ferguson's, I don't want to call it self-contained class. That's probably not the right terminology, but he needs one teacher for this special classroom. If you could provide me with information, cost, timeline to find the right person to implement that, with a timeline also of this school year and this fiscal year, and funding for transportation and a meal in middle when they implement their Saturday school. Would you be the appropriate person to take the lead on
and some of
providing
that
that?
funding is already in place thanks to your initiative. So yes, I will work with each of those and provide that information.
Great. Thank you. And Ms. Webb, I'd like to talk with you personally about doing some type of appreciation event, privately funded, for your teachers, duty-free lunch or breakfast of some kind. So don't get out of here before I get a chance to talk to you.
I think that's all. What's stuck in my mind from everybody I learned something from, but I do remember the first curriculum meeting last year, Mr. Ferguson, there was 6 schools there. And so if we can knock off 2 a year, we are exceptional. And we've got the best people doing it. So it's going to happen.
Mr. Chairman, can we take a 5-minute break?
Yes,
Or
and I'm
let these
sorry
folks
I
get on
couldn't
there?
wait. If you'd have told
That's
me,
okay.
maybe I could have waited, but I had to go. We'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay, we'll pick back up and I'll turn it over to Dr. Jones on an update on the preschool education.
So I provided some bullets for each of you regarding just some of the highlights in the last 3 areas that we have on the agenda. First of all, with preschool education, I wanted you to be aware that we did meet with North Carolina Pre-K to look at what we could do to strengthen our partnership regarding expansion, as well as supporting and communicating our cooperation with preschool services. We met over at Alliance with Children, and some of the information we did find out, of course, they have 9 classes that are in Union County Public Schools, 7 at Walter Bickett, 1 at Waxhaw, 1 in Indian Trail. The remainder of the classes, which are around 23, would be at private child cares or churches here in the school, here in Union County. Any students that we do not place with Title I Pre-K, we do make those referrals to North Carolina Pre-K, and they place those students and work. Right currently, I've been told they do not have a waiting list. Bottom line, I did say if we had the demand and if we had space, for example, Ms. Walters said she knew of one class they were holding at Walter Bickett Education Center. If we had a class at the Education Center, if there was a demand and North Carolina Pre-K had the budget, they would be open to expanding, as well as possibly also looking at our Title I programming, that if we had an extra class at the Education Center, they would look at that funding and see if we could. Again, it's going to be based upon our demand as well as the budget. It's about $15,000 to set up a pre-K class.
$15,000 to set up plus the cost of the ongoing cost of the teacher.
That is correct.
I thought there was a waiting list of 80. Wasn't the number 80 students at Walter Bickett? Was that absorbed by Head Start or the Alliance?
Well, you have that with the Title I. You have that. We had 91 on the waiting list.
Right.
The difference is your Title I provides transportation. North Carolina Pre-K does not provide transportation. So you would have 91 folks who are interested, but they need transportation. So they are referred to North Carolina Pre-K, but North Carolina Pre-K does not provide transportation.
So long and short of it is there were 90 some odd families that are not getting any kind of pre-K.
That requested the Title I Pre-K that are on the waiting list. Yes, sir.
But the problem is they can't go into regular pre-K because the transportation piece is missing.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's the information I've gathered so far from your request. We will be working with them when enrollment season comes on communication, and public relations and Ms. Stalbert's office will also help us.
Now, one question I have for Dr. Houlihan on that, will part of our grant be able to be used for that?
No, the grant's only for current employees or employees in the future regarding incentives for things like attendance and professional development. You can't use that funding to actually hire additional teachers.
Just making a note that Mr. Rape, Ms. Podgorny, our dual language instructional coach, and I had the chance to visit Marvin Elementary on November 15th to tour their Mandarin programs.
Well, I learned a lot during the month of November, and probably a better person for it. The programs there is amazing. It is truly amazing to hear fifth graders talking, and I asked a couple of them a question in English and they answered it back in Mandarin, although I had no idea whether they were right or wrong. It sounded right. So the only thing that me and Dr. Jones have had a continuing discussion on, and we're going to try to nail it down. It does cost more for this immersion program, and it is not free. And I think it is a wonderful thing, but we're going to sort of try to put a price tag on it,
yes, sir,
so that we know what it is. And but I hope that it just made me realize I need to look before I talk about something. And That's all I'll say about that. We'll move on to the classroom library inventory update. Dr. Jones.
Thank you. And I have provided you an update regarding our process. That survey that Scholastic gives each of the teachers, which takes about 20 minutes to complete, that survey has now closed. We did need to extend 1 week because 1 week prior to fall break, we only had about 60% of the surveys completed. So we extended 1 week, which was to this past Monday. It closed on Monday. And then Rashawn Smith from Scholastic will now look at each school. She will develop the not only the number of books that would be needed by class, but also looking at the genre of what, and then she will present the proposal to me, and then we will bring it to curriculum. And then, of course, it'll have to go to board for approval because it certainly would be an expense that's going to be over $100,000. This is the same process we followed K2. So they're moving on it.
Mr. Sides, you being vice chair, we had hoped to get this purchased over the Christmas break. Maybe we can have a call-in. Maybe we could have a call-in curriculum meeting and then a call-in board meeting to, I'm thinking we should try to get it as soon as we can. The books in the classroom, the quicker they are.
A lot of it's going to depend upon Scholastic. They know last time they worked quickly with us. I've asked them to be expeditious in this process and get it to us as quickly as they can, as soon as we have it. And I will keep you informed in the process. I'll let you know.
They'll give us the final price tag.
That is correct.
This item, as well as, and we've talked a little bit about this, the other kind of literacy gap that we have from a resource standpoint is in middle school. Our 6th through 8th graders desperately need more fiction and nonfiction books and classroom sets. And so tomorrow at the finance committee, I've asked that Dr. Jones be there because we want to look at also 6th through 8th grade as well as a possibility for even second semester or for next year. But that would then take you K through 8, really making sure you've had a solid investment with literacy. So I just thank the board for their support with this.
Is that the classroom 6 through 8 or is that the meeting?
That's the classroom sets.
And I'm just thinking outside the box. Could we combine the curriculum with the full board call-in where while we were on the phone, the curriculum could vote on it and then take over, or Mr. Sides, and let's do it, make it convenient.
We can figure that out, of course. Once we get their information back from Scholastic, if we're ready to go, which I assume we will be in the next couple of weeks,
Yes.
we can work with you as curriculum chair and with Mr. Sides and Ms. Merrill to figure out how to set that up and do a call-in.
I just don't want to lose a month of getting those books into children's hands when it's going to cost us the same, whether they're delivered in January or February.
Yes, sir. It's a sense of urgency.
All of the committee members before about setting a time for the next meeting. And we had also received, I've received an email from Ms. Stalbert about setting our meetings for next year. We will not do the next year setting today because I do need to talk with the other committee chairs, but I will be receptive to whatever day everybody works with. I mean, I'm kind of flexible, so they're wanting it since they film, and they have to plan for it. And I never thought about it till the email said they do use this room all the time, so I understand more now the urgency. So if you have any feedback, be sure, just Dr. Jones is always accessible, or you can call me, but I would say run it through him. Ms. Sturdivant, Ms. Helms, Mr. Sides, as far as another meeting for December, do you have any recommendations? Ma'am? Yeah. Okay. Well, maybe we can do it in the call-in meeting when we, ma'am?
Like 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Will we need to have a meeting in December, though? We normally
We
skip
may
it.
have the call-in to do the.
Besides the general
we don't
meeting,
know of
we don't have-
anything right now. Okay, well, Dr. Jones will handle that and line it up. And if there's no further business, I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion
Yes.
Make a motion to approve all the school improvement plans presented today.
All in favor? Aye.